Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to speak. Thank you for organizing the conference. So I came to Toronto in 2011, and I remember I was going to the bone marrow transplant unit. They gave me my first patient who went straight to ICU on that day, and it stuck with me ever since. And then today, this patient is actually here today. It's Sarah Telford, and she gave the most wonderful presentation earlier. Check out her keynote this afternoon. 15 years. Yeah, so proud. All right. The three of us are going to present on the pediatric Canadian CAR T-cell network. So what's the premise of this? CAR T-cells, as you all know, have changed the way we do medicine. People talk of a paradigm shift that has become standard of care in many programs, and really gives us an opportunity to offer treatment and cure to patients we weren't able to treat and cure previously. If you look at the adult world, and I just came off from a call with CCO, right? Like they have a huge pipeline of CAR T cells for lymphomas, from multiple myelomas. A lot of activity happening there, a lot of driven by industry. How about in pediatrics? Well, we have one product, ACCESS-ACCESS. Which products are in the pipeline? Zero. So we have a problem. So why is that? Well, the problem is that our numbers are not the same as the adults. Our diseases are rare, and we don't treat the same diseases as the adults do. So from an industry side, there's not a lot of interest in R&D because we won't be able to return investment. So this is what I put up here is from a position paper from Claudia Rossek from Germany, where she basically summarized the dilemma and putting it quite dramatically, which is, I think, how most of us feel, that we're really at a crossroads. If we want to be able to offer these novel therapies, these exciting therapies to patients, to children, we have to find a different solution that is not dependent on industry, and it has to be an academic solution. So this is really what triggered the proposal that we're presenting here today. And it includes that we want a Canadian network of pediatric CAR T-cell manufacturing, again, in the academic setting. And then not just only that, because if you just have it at these dedicated centers, that may not help people who don't live there, right? So it's all about access and delivering this care to patients who don't live at these centers, and to make the care as local, regional as possible, so patients can receive this in the context of their support system. So the 6 pediatric transplant centers from 5 cities all over Canada got together for this proposal and are currently constituting the steering committee. And we work very closely with all our referring sites, because that's where a lot of the work is happening before and after the treatment. And this is our grant. Number 1, 6 innocent words, pediatric point of care manufacturing capabilities, right? To Amanda and myself, it feels like we earned ourselves a lifelong project that will keep us busy until retirement. Because it's such a complex endeavor, and I won't go into it, but the regulatory burden of all of this to make cells and to be allowed to give to patients is huge. Aim 2 is to form a pediatric network with support system standards, care pathways, and educational resources, so that this care can be delivered at the referring centers. And then Aim 3 is a little bit more a specific aim, but it's basically to allow access to a technology that is currently not available in Canada, to streamline these patients into risk groups of CAR T-cells enough or not. And then really the guiding principles were really to make this a countrywide effort, especially with the politics that are currently developing. It seems more and more important that there's an independent kind of approach angle at this CAR T-cell issue. The other thing is obviously the involvement of patients and families with lived experience. I'm very happy to have Julia Dawson here today, who will talk about one of her wonderful projects. So I'm just gonna briefly chat a little bit about Aim 1. So how do you climb a mountain? How do you, I guess, an elephant, right? Like bit by bit. So the first step, if you want to do CAR T-cell manufacturing, you actually have to say, I can make a product that meets regulatory requirements, quality requirements. And if you want to have a network, we have to make sure that these products are similar between the different institutions. So the aim is really to show that we can run 3 runs to make CAR T cells that are comparable and meet the standards for a clinical trial. So we spent quite a lot of time, even after we had the green light from ACCESS, to meet more with stakeholders, industry partners, et cetera, to make sure that we make the right choice of how to do that. Because what you do in the beginning, it's hard to walk back if you change your mind later on. We now have a committee led by Dr. Prokopishyn of all the labs, of the 5 labs of the 6 centers that will participate in the manufacturing. We spend a lot of time on QC testing, so this comes back to the regulatory part. How do you make sure this product is safe to give to a patient? And then there are import license, biosafety licenses. Those take 4 to 6 months to get. We got more than 50% by now. So there is progress, but it's all very timely. So in terms of progress, we are very excited because Calgary, April 2026, we will do our first manufacturing run. And it will be done by actually all centers together in Calgary to synchronize and to make sure that the way these cells are manufactured are as similar as possible between all the centers. We will validate this against an adult laboratory in Edmonton, led by Dr. Chu, who has manufactured these cells many times. He had like over 30 patients, and all approved by Health Canada. So this will be our benchmark against which we validate and against which we will take on the different laboratories to join the network and be allowed to manufacture on the trial that will be the next step of this project. We think that this is really foundational work that will serve the community, it will serve the country, it will serve the children in Canada. And really the vector that we chose is CD19, so that's the vector we currently have. So you may ask why, right? Well, if you look, for example, at the COG, the #1 unmet need right now is ALL first relapse. They're going to have a CAR T-cell trial. Are we going to be part? No. Why? Complicated, but the answer is no, right? So what are we going to do for our patients? This is where this hopefully will lead with the next step. And then really it is meant as a proof of principle platform, because in the end, there are many people here in the room and in Canada who have exciting vectors, exciting targets, who want to make CAR T cells. And this will provide a platform in the network where you can make these CAR T cells. And you may make one in Calgary, one in Winnipeg, one in Toronto, but not everybody has to make the same. The network will cross-reference, right, and will cross-fertilize to give everyone in Canada access to these products. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda.
Hi, thanks very much. Can you hear me now? Yeah, great. So the second aim of our project is to improve equitable access and national standards of CAR T-cell therapy delivery. And the goal is to really bring not just the CAR T-cell delivery centers together, but all of the centers across Canada who treat pediatric oncology and pediatric ALL. So it's the recognition that every center has different capacity and different patient needs for these CAR T-cell therapies, but that all centers should be involved to try to deliver the best care at their center that will try as much as we can to keep patients where they're at for as long as they're able to stay there. And so our goal is to develop this Canadian Pediatric CAR T-cell Network, or CPCN, bringing together all of the sites, the local oncologists, but also the patients and families who are cared for at these sites. We would like to also develop consensus recommendations and practice standards and to be able to educate, train, support, and create infrastructure to allow for this standardization across the country. And so the progress that we've made on this aim, firstly, we have developed and drafted a consensus statement guideline for the use of CAR T-cell therapy in children in Canada for at least the CD19 CAR T-cell product beyond the existing commercial label. And as you recall, when these products go to phase 1, 2, and sometimes 3 trials and then go for market authorization, the market authorization is often limited to simply what was tested in those early phase trials. But we know that many patients will benefit from this therapy outside of those rigorous exclusion and inclusion criteria. So this is a statement that is already in draft version, and it's undergoing review. And the most important thing for us as Canadian pediatric CAR T-cell physicians is that we all have input into it and feel that we can adopt it across the country for standardization across the country. We have also recognized that there are different needs in different provinces and in different referral sites, that we don't always appreciate what each local center has experienced and what they have at their resources. And so led by Dr. Divya Subaraj and Dr. Victor Lewis from Winnipeg and Calgary, respectively, we have put together an online survey of the clinical teams who have to this point had experience with either referring or treating patients with CAR T-cell therapy. And this data has actually all been collected, and we are waiting data analysis to try to understand what needs remain and where we should put our efforts as a CAR T-cell network. Next slide. And so the second part of our AIM-2 is really exciting, and it's why I've brought a very special patient with lived experience, Julia Dawson, here today. So we really wanted this to be a patient-led and patient-focused AIM as well. And so we have partnered with not just Julia, but a few other patients and their families to really try to understand what this early era of CAR T-cell therapy has looked like from their perspective, how they feel we should be moving our education and advocacy forward. And so Julia, of her own initiative and of her own accord, has created this Everything CAR T-cell Teen Cancer Workbook. So I'm going to invite Julia to first introduce to everyone who she is and a little bit about her journey as a patient with lived experience. Hi, Julia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name's Julia Dawson, and I've been diagnosed with leukemia, ALL, 3 times now. First when I was 8 years old, and then again when I was 13, and then for the 3rd time in June 2024. And obviously, June 2024 is when I did CAR T-cell therapy, and I was actually one of the patients to receive CAR T-cell treatment from start to finish at BC Children's Hospital, which I was one of the first, so that was pretty exciting. And yeah.
Thanks. We are really excited about that, and I'm so grateful that you're able to share your experience. Joerg, do you want to click once again? All right. So, Julia, why did you write this book?
I created this CAR T-cell workbook for kids because when I was a patient receiving treatment, it was hard to find information that was written specifically for patients, especially in a way that was easy for kids and teens to understand. I wanted to make something that explains part of the treatment while also trying to help teens and kids feel more comfortable during their hospital experience. The workbook that I made includes both useful and fun pages. For example, one of the pages I included was a pain scale that helps teens and kids identify and communicate the level of pain they're experiencing to their care team.
That's amazing. What do you hope that this book will do now that you've written it? Who do you want to reach with it, and what impact do you want it to have on other patients?
Well, the main hopes and dreams for it is, of course, to finalize it, get it printed, and just to share with patients and families all over so they have more information to help them.
That's really amazing. We're going to show some screenshots of the draft version, and waiting to have the finalized version to show you all in person. So these were just some working screenshots. You can see that we've got some explanation about CAR T-cell therapy. Julia's written some of these wonderful pages that allow youth and teens to express themselves about possible side effects, exploring some coping mechanisms, core values. What I haven't shown you here are a lot of the fun pages where she's added quite a lot that will hopefully allow patients to journey through this book as they're undergoing their therapy. So Julia, are there anything else you want to add as we finish this part of the project?
I don't think so.
Right.
I
So
have to point out Julia, my favorite page was the one that is empty and that you can rip out. Can you explain that page?
Oh, the Reckitt pages?
Yes.
I made Reckitt pages, so some of the pages are blank and then they have something on them that's either rip this out and crinkle it or scribble all over it, or just pages you can take your frustration out when you're having a bad day.
We need one for physicians as well, right?
So hopefully coming to a clinic near you very shortly. So lastly, our third aim, and this was to improve post-CAR T-cell therapy treatment monitoring using next-generation sequencing minimal residual disease or NGS-MRD testing to Canada. And this is really because, as most of you know, this is an assay that we don't have ready access to yet in many parts of the country, and yet is being widely adopted in other parts of the world as a way of detecting early clonal evolution or early clonal disease, which can allow us that opportunity to intervene and potentially be able to prevent a relapse. This is still something that we're still learning more and more about, and it offers us an opportunity to really learn about our patients after therapy. So with this challenge to access, we have formed an NGS MRD working group, not just with Dr. Krueger and myself, but also with friends and colleagues in a couple different sites. So we have Dr. Eric McGinnis, Karen Sherwood in Vancouver. We have Dr. Jack Bartram at Sick Kids Hospital and Tai Tran at St. Justine. And we meet regularly to try and move this aim forward. And really, as you all know, as this ACCESS project has evolved over the last 2 years or so, really the political landscape has also evolved with time. And there have been challenges of even having our commercial standardized testing go across the border to the States or be sent outside of Canada. So we know that there's a real need to try and develop these infrastructures and these tests here in Canada. The NGS-MRD technique that has been adopted by many groups, including the Children's Oncology Group, is clonoSEQ by Adaptive Biotech based in Seattle, which is a proprietary methodology. It's difficult to validate at present as an external site. And with the changing political landscape, there is opportunity and some vision to develop and validate a method that could be done at home. The EuroMRD approach has been used very successfully in both academic settings across Europe, and Dr. Jack Bartram has been key in developing that at Great Ormond Street. He is now here in Canada at Sick Kids, and so there's opportunity to see if we can develop this either in parallel with validation of samples at both clonoSEQ and with this new approach, or this approach alone. And so we hope to cross-validate 20 post-CAR T-cell therapy samples on a commercial and a non-commercial NGS-MRD platform. And currently a protocol for this is being developed by Dr. Ravi Shah in Calgary. So we hope to be able to report more progress next year, but certainly a lot of changing landscape here on this aim. Back to you, Joerg.
Thank you, everyone. That was what we had. And just to emphasize again, it's really Amanda and myself, this is on behalf of the group and there are many, many people involved, and we probably forgot some, and we apologize in advance to make this happen. It's really it's a big project, but I think we are much more optimistic, and yeah, that this will all work out in the end today than we were certainly a year ago. So thank you, everyone.